What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Two-Wheeled Rider YouTube channel. My name is Mario Orsini, and in today's video, we are going to review, compare, and test 3 different motorcycle-specific air compressors. So before we get started, I want to mention that 2 of these setups are actually tire repair kits as well. This one isn't, and we'll get into discussing that why later on. But this is for tubeless tires only. If you have tube tires, these tire repair kits are not going to work for you. However, the rest of the information about the air compressors is still going to be applicable, and I'll discuss that a little bit later too. Also want to discuss real quickly before we get started why you need one of these. Well, my channel is built around motorcycle touring, and if you're going to go out on a long ride, over time, there's a chance you're going to get a puncture or a flat, and this can save you a ton of money, ton of time, and ton of hassle if you're able to repair that punctured tire alongside the road and continue on your ride. Another option that we're not going to discuss in today's video, because I specifically want to get into the air compressors themselves, is another option you have to inflate a tire, and that is a CO2 system. Personally, I don't like those for road travel. I think they'd be very good for trail bikes if you're riding off-road. Part of the reason I don't like them as much for travel purposes is if you have a slow leak or whatever, you can continuously pull over like I did on that Mid-Atlantic BDR trip and pump the tire back up as long as you have battery power to your bike. But with the CO2, once those cartridges are dead, they're dead and you're left stranded. But again, on the trail, they're great because they pack small and they pack much smaller than these devices. So I want to get in and kind of show you the features and everything of each of these, and then we'll get into some testing and comparison and those sorts of things. So let's get started on this first one, which is the Stop and Go Tubeless Puncture Pilot. All right, so to get started, this thing retails for about $65 on Amazon. You can find it for about $62. It does come with everything that I'm about to show you inside of this. This is a heavy-duty canvas case with a zipper on it. I think it measures like 7 inches by 4 inches by 3 inches. Fits perfectly under the seat of my Super Adventure. Inside of here, you do have a 12-volt air compressor. It's got a built-in tire pressure gauge on it that will go up to 50 PSI. It also has an LED light over here on the side, and it's just got a short little 4-inch spin-on hose built into it, which is more than enough to do what you need to do. In addition to that, you know, when it comes to the cables, we can go up to, I believe it's like 66-inch long power cord. This is all just tucked into the back here. I'm not going to pull all of that out. In addition to that, we have alligator clips that we can plug on. We also have the ability, if you've got a battery tender leads already on your bike, you can plug in that way, or there's a way to use a power adapter if you have one like I do on my Super Adventure. Also included in this pack, and I'm not sure if I still have them in here with mine or not, I think I probably already took them out of here. They do come with some sport adapters, so if you wanted to pump up a basketball or an air mattress or something like that, you have that option. What I really like about this is everything packs into this case. We have a tire plunger and rasp and everything over here. They also, at least to start, oh wait, there's the little sports pack right there. I do still have it. Also, to start, it does come with 15 of these mushroom style tire plugs. They've worked pretty well for me in the past. And then to cut those off, once you've got them inserted in your tire, it also comes with a razor blade. The only other thing to really know about this is it only comes with a 1-year warranty, which is pretty typical of these sorts of devices. I have had this one, man, I'd have to go back and look, probably 6-7 years. It's never failed me, so I wouldn't be too worried about the warranty. This is the one I personally still carry on my Super Adventure. I carry it on my FJR, I carry it on my VFR, I've carried it on just about every bike I have, and that's because it, well, once you get it all back in there, it packs up very, very small, and it will fit under the seat of most motorcycles, and it'll definitely fit in a tank bag. So now that we've kind of gone over some of the features of this one, we're going to jump over to the Moto pumps. All right, so unlike this pump over here that you can order off Amazon and a few online retailers, to the best of my knowledge, you can only get the Moto pumps pump, which is called the Mini Pro Inflator, and this is the Mini Pro Inflator Deluxe Pack. To my knowledge, you can only get it off motopumps.com. The price is a little bit higher. This thing retails for $99.99. The actual price that you're gonna pay, unless they put them on sale, is $99.99. I got one of these as a gift about 1.5 years ago, have used the crap out of it for track purposes. I've kept it under the seat of my truck. Brian will tell you, we've inflated the boys' tires and deflated them and everything numerous times using this. We also used it on my dirt bike. This has always been kept in my truck. It's also great if I need to pump up my truck tires. It's got enough power to do that. But Kristen liked it so much, I ended up giving her mine, so I had to buy another one. So that ought to tell you that I do really like this pump. I actually spent my own money to buy it, or air compressor, whatever you want to call it. So let me show you what it comes with. Inside the box here, we have the air compressor itself. It's also a 12-volt air compressor. Let me cut this thing open. All right, so some things that separate it from this one. Not only do you have the pressure gauge, it goes up to 50 PSI. It also measures in bar. This is a backlit display, so you can even see it at night. It also has an LED light on it, and it's got a 3-foot coiled hose that comes in here on the side. So this thing, I'm not gonna pull it all the way out of there. It's also a spin-on style. This thing, it gives you a little bit more range than this one over here does, with just the 4-inch one. Also built into the back is your cable. I believe this cable stretches out to about 6.5 feet, and then it also has some sport adapters mounted into the back of the device. So it does pack up pretty small. Also included, at least in the deluxe kit, is this neoprene zipper case. So what you can do is throw your air compressor in here, and then down here in the bottom part of it, you have your wired adapters. So once again, just like this one over here, it's got the built-in battery tender, so you can plug it directly in if you have battery tender leads. If you don't, you've got the alligator clips. And you could also, if you don't have battery tender leads, it's cool because they give you some, and you can just hardwire this onto your bike, mount this somewhere where it's easily accessible, and then plug the air compressor in directly to it. And then when you get done with it, it just goes back in to the bottom part of this neoprene case, which is pretty nice. And it does pack small, it just doesn't pack quite as small as this one. So in this kit, if you get the deluxe kit, you get the Dynaplug plunger, and you also get some additional plugs. So you get 7 plugs total. This is the carbon ultralight. They've got a few different versions. I haven't taken these out of the packaging yet, but they'll fit right in here or up in this section. So you've really got an entire tire repair kit, as well as an air compressor to keep your ride going. The other advantage of this one over this one, this bad boy comes with a 5-year warranty instead of a 1-year warranty, and that separates it out from the other two. And then finally, the last one we're going to talk about is the Slime Power Sports Tire Inflator. This is not an entire kit. This is just the air compressor itself. The reason I wanted to show this one is this is available at most major box stores and auto parts stores, if not this specific model, which is the 40061, and I'll try to link it in the description below, as well as the Stop and Go, and I'll put a link in there for Moto pumps as well. This is available at most stores, and if you can't get this exact one, you can get one close to it, but this one is made for cars, motorcycles, ATVs, lawn tractors, whatever. If you want a tire repair kit for it, Slime sells a few different ones. They're probably gonna run you about $15 to $20 for the tire repair kit, depending on what you want. This bad boy retails for about $46. I spent about $20 to get one. If you look around online, eBay, Amazon, those sorts of places, you can get them a little bit cheaper. Let's pop it out of the packaging here, and I'll show you what's inside. All right, so this one is the only one with what I'm gonna call like a hard case. Unzip it. And I opened this up earlier. I think you could fit some tire repair tools in here. You could definitely fit some plugs. I don't know if you're gonna fit a plunger, we'll see. This one's a little bit more basic. We do have a tire pressure gauge built in. I don't believe it's backlit. We do have an LED light. We've got a 7.5-inch hose back here, same thing, spin-on style. Again, we've got a needle and then another thing to inflate air mattress, those sorts of things. And this has both PSI and bar readings on there. This one also has the longest power cable, which is a little over 9 feet. But this is where it falls a little short for me past that. We can hardwire it in, but I don't think anybody wants this damn thing hanging off the side of their bike. I guess maybe you would if you don't have a power outlet on there already and you could find a place to put it. Problem is you're gonna need some sort of plug or cap for it, because the last thing you want is rain or water getting in there. So if you don't hardwire it on, again, we have the alligator clips, and then that plugs into the factory connector that's on here. My issue with that is a lot of us run battery tenders. A lot of us have battery tender leads already on our bike, which makes these two way more convenient because we can just plug directly into them. Where this one, it's a different type of plug. There are so many different battery tender options of accessories and stuff you can plug in, like USB chargers and obviously, you know, air compressors and stuff. I don't like this one quite as much, but one thing it'll do that these two can't, this one will go up to 100 PSI where these two stop at 50. Now, for the purposes of riding a motorcycle, 100 PSI is not necessary. I don't think anyone's riding around with that much air pressure in their tires. However, if you wanted to have something to keep in your automobile, and then when you go out riding, throw this in your top case or tank bag, might be a viable option for you as opposed to buying more of a motorcycle specific one. So again, I haven't really used the slime one. I just bought it for the purposes of today's video to test it out, see how it does. May throw this in one of my cars or something. But I wanted to talk about my experience with these two that I have used. And I kind of touched on it with the Moto pump. This is one that I've been carrying around in my truck for a year and a half. Not this one, the one Kristen took from me. But this thing's great. I've had no complaints out of it. Works awesome. If you have room on your bike, this is a great option. I want it to fit under my seat and I don't want to take up any more space. And this thing has lasted such a long time. I would vouch for either one of these because I've had a lot of use with both of them. This one here, we're going to find out. We're actually going to pull my Super Adventure up on the lift here in just a few moments. We're going to do a few tests. We're going to give you the results of the test, and then I'm just going to leave you with a few final thoughts. So stay tuned. All right, so for the first test, we want to see how quickly these air compressors can inflate a tire. So I've deflated the rear tire on my Super Adventure to just 20 PSI. We're going to test out each pump 1 minute at a time. To make sure we're back down to 20 each time, we're going to use this same pressure gauge just for, you know, test purposes. And we're just going to see what it brings it up to in 1 minute's worth of time on here, starting from 20 PSI. We're also going to note the indicated tire pressure on the built-in gauge to find out how accurate it is as well. So we're going to start out with the stop and go. Now keep in mind, I said this one's got a really short lead on here, so we're going to get it spun on. And then I'm going to hit the start button on the timer of my phone and on the stop and go now. All right, so the indicated tire pressure is sitting on 28 PSI. We're going to pull this off. Now we're going to see what this pressure gauge reads. 24.5 PSI. So essentially in 1 minute it inflated the tire 3.5 PSI. I'm going to write down those results and then we'll test the next one. Okay, so I've brought the tire pressure back down to 20 PSI. Once again, you can see we have the Moto pumps, air compressor plugged in. And this is how I was talking about how this thing's backlit so you can even see it at night. So we're going to get this one spun on and then we once again are going to put it on there for a minute and see what it brings it up to. Let's go ahead and get ready to start these two at the same time. And all right, so I'm showing an indicated, we're going to call it 28 on here. So let's pop this off. On all these, at least on this one and the stop and go, you're going to hear a little bit of air pressure. It sounds like it's leaking out. It's really not leaking out of the tire. It's leaking out of the air compressor hose. And this one's showing 23.5. Let's try that one more time, just see. Yeah, only showing 23.5. So about the same as what the stop and go was. If I'm looking at things, actually the stop and go was showing 24.5. So the Moto pumps did a little bit worse than the stop and go. All right, so unlike the last two that were hooked up to my battery tender leads, which may be out of frame there, this one's hooked up to my power outlet up on the dashboard of the Super Adventure. This is the slime. Once again, we've brought the air pressure down to an indicated on this gauge anyway, 20 PSI. So let's get this one spun on. Let's see, we're showing just below, nope, it's popped up to 20 PSI. So now keep in mind, this is a slime gauge, so hopefully this doesn't throw off the results, but at least they're showing up to be the same. So let's get ready and test this one out for 1 minute. All right, close enough. I lost it by 0.17 of a second. This one is showing an indicated 27 PSI, so let's see. And we've got 25, so this was actually, at least time-wise, for the amount of air it put in 1 minute. This one won. It put in 25, or it put in 5 psi. We're going to run one more additional test, and then I'll show you all these results again when we recap at the end. Okay, so for our final test, I've brought the tire pressure up to 30 psi using my shop air compressor. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to test each air compressor for 1 minute, starting at 30 psi, and see how they do. Also indicating what they indicate when we first put them on, and then before we take them off, and compare that to what the actual results are. All right, so we're showing an indicated, I'm going to call it 29 on there, and go. And now I'm showing an indicated, we're going to call that 36. In the actual, 33.5, so there's really no change from doing it at 20 psi or 30 psi. So we've brought the psi back down to 30. Next up is the Moto Pumps pump. The one thing I do like about it is it's got this metal threads on here as opposed to the plastic, so it ought to hold up better long term. Let's take a look at the indicated. It's showing me 34 psi to start, despite the fact I just measured this at 30. So let's see what happens. All right, so it was showing 34. Now I'm gonna call it, we'll call that 39 psi is what it's showing. I've got 33. So basically, again, I think that was the same number we had before. It put about 3 psi in 1 minute's worth of time. All right, and then finally, once again, we've brought the tire pressure back down to 30 psi. And last but not least is the slime pump. So we're showing an indicated on there of 30, which is pretty accurate. Now let's see what it does here in its minute of time. And it is showing, I'm gonna say 37.5, and the actual is 34.5. Let me write down these results, and then we'll wrap up. All right, guys, just to go over the test results again. Remember, we started at 20 psi and 30 psi. I just took the averages of both of those. So the Moto pumps moved the least amount of air, just pumping up the tire, 3.25 psi in a minute, and the accuracy of the gauge was off by an average of 5 psi. I hate to say coming in second place, we're not really ranking them, but next up was the stop and go. It moved 4 psi into the tire on average on those two tests and was off accuracy of the built-in gauge by 3 psi. And then finally, the slime moved 4.75 psi into the tire, and its accuracy was off by an average of 2.5 psi. So what does that mean? Well, it means they all put air in the tires, and it also means don't trust these built-in gauges. That's why you always need a good tire pressure gauge. And then if you have an onboard system like my Super Adventure does, you can double check it as well. But at least the gauges are within a few psi. It gives you an idea. And by testing them before you take them out, and that should go for any of this stuff, tire repair kits, make sure you know how to use all this stuff before you have to learn how to do it on the road. Learn to do it in your garage. And if you know the accuracy is off by 3 or 4 psi, then just put extra tire pressure into the tire as indicated on the gauge, and then you ought to be pretty close. So which one's best for you? Well, I'm going to leave that up to you. Like I said before, this bad boy over here is going to continue to stay under my seat. Nothing against these two. They both performed really, really well, but this one fits under my seat. If you would have asked me before the test which one of these would have put the most pressure in the least amount of time, I would have picked this one last. I would have thought it would have put the least amount in because it's very small. This thing's old. Like I said, I've had it for years. This one I would have thought had a chance to win, which it did in moving the most air, because it'll go up to 100 psi. It's also made to use on automobiles instead of these two, which are more motorcycle specific. But I thought the Moto pumps would perform a little better. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're talking about like a third of a psi difference between these two. And overall, we're only talking about 1.5 pounds. So not really that big a deal. But the Moto pumps, if you've got room for it on your bike, I love supporting small companies. They are a small company. They're it's run by motorcycle riders, for motorcycle riders. So definitely check it out if it's something you're interested in. And again, it's got some pretty cool features built into it that the slime doesn't have. My biggest issue with this one is still the fact that it just has like the car adapter on it, and there's no way, at least easily, I guess you could get the battery tender adapter. It's just more dongles and stuff you have to deal with if you just want to plug into battery tender leads. but I may throw this in my car because it did really well. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. I hope you got some value out of today's video, seeing the features that each of these products has and how well they work, maybe for different applications depending on what your application is. But if you have any additional questions, maybe some things I didn't cover that you'd like a little more information on, let me know down in the comment section below. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.